My father had a little printing shop that he started in 1933. And to make the printing shop have things to print, he copyrighted the name Paul Bunyan. And after developing the Paul Bunyan legend and expanding on it, he started printing postcards and booklets. And then he and my mother went through all of northern Minnesota trying to peddle the Paul Bunyan playground concept. And with resorts and during the Depression, not too many people would buy in. But when they did, he could afford to stay at the hotel or the resort. And when they didn't, they slept in the car. So those are the 30s, and they finally were able to land Brainerd as a host property. And had in Brainerd, 36 and 37 had 2 Paul Bunyan days. That's 6 years before the Minnesota Equitennial. And in that process, they got to know Brainerd, they got to love the area, and after the Paul Bunyan era sort of died, they were enticed into buying property by a college friend, Jack Madden, who was a realtor here in Brainerd, and who all the way also worked with them in the Paul Bunyan program. So in 1940, Dad bought the 7 acres of this property and started building 8 little cabins. But in those days, there were no real contractors around, so he hired 8 different families to build 8 different cabins from blueprints that he had in college. And those were completed for 1941. And in 41, we opened for the first time as a housekeeping resort with 8 cabins and survived until we had a little bit of a need to improve things. So they went to the bank on a Saturday, December 6th, 1941, and signed the mortgage the day before Pearl Harbor. And so the next year, at age 10, I was in charge of worms, minnows, frogs, and bait in this little marina down here. And my dad was busy making Skippy peanut butter labels for the war effort down in Minneapolis and come up on weekends. So that's how we got to Brainerd. I'm a big city boy. I grew up in Minneapolis. Went to Marshall High, went to the University of Minnesota. I was in Germany, served there after the war for the Korean thing. And my dad called up and said, you know, I'm going to sell the resort or you're going to come. And it took me a while to think about that because I was enjoying Berlin after the war. But I came back and started building it. And 7 years later, I met my wife in San Francisco, brought her here, and so we've been growing ever since till we are now the largest family resort in Minnesota.